TOMz.
Hey, Tabafets, what's going on? What's up? Welcome to another fresh episode here at TOMZ. Kunalago SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Brought to you by SABC Education.
Nali are here to keep you guys updated on the latest and the coolest trends for science and technology. Mzansi. But today we're going to talk all about mankind's fascination with flight.
Okay, so ever since mankind looked up into the sky and saw birds flapping their wings, Tina Abant have been wanting to fly. So in today's episode, we're not only going to be looking at the science of flying, but sabesibona at the evolution of flights, and it's been as one ukuthi ama different aircrafts ayenziwa kanjani to fly, and we're also going to be checking how an airplane is actually assembled.
So you guys can actually experience a bit of flying.
Right now, let's check out what we have for you guys on today's show.
As we take off and fly in an airplane, how different crafts can stay in the air. We find out and we show you guys how jet and rocket engines work. The history and evolution of flight. Check out some awesome flight simulating applications for your smartphone. And get some cool career advice from our guests on today's show. Aircraft Iblaning how can an aircraft the jet engines on the These are the questions that Lona, so take a look.
Doesn't flying come from birds?
Okay, flying comes from birds.
I think it's the gravity. I think gravity plays a big role in it flying or staying up in the air.
The first aircraft that was built by men, I really don't know. I could say
What were the first aircrafts built by men? Amagama, Angaz.
I think they work with fuel like normal cars. It's just that it's bigger and it needs more boosting.
In that tank, the engine, rocket, at whatever speed, that explosion causes a rocket to then shoot up. We used to try that, Bangani, it used to work.
We're not only wanting to find out how planes are made, but it's fun ukuthi lama pilots are fly kanjani.
So Lona bofan the seat belt because on ralong rilo fof.
My name is James Pittman, and I'm one of the two owners of the airplane factory. This aeroplane over here is our demonstration four-seater sling. It's called the Sling 4, and it's the second aircraft of its type that we built as a business. We started in 2005 and we developed a two-seater, what's called a light sport aircraft. It took us 3 years to get our first airplane flying, completely our own design. And we did that in a little office park in Edenvale, just in the east of Johannesburg. This is the second Sling 4 we built, and this is our production prototype Sling 4. Still the demo plane that the factory uses. Take all our customers in, and I hope I'm going to take you for a flight in a moment in it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to warm up the engine. It's always important to look after an airplane engine. So we've got to get the oil temperature to 50. Make sure the brake is on. We don't want to go flying away. And fuel pumps on. EFIS backup on, master switch on. First start today, so a little bit of choke. And let's see if she starts. Sounds good to me. Because there are no roads in the sky, you have to talk to people who are in the vicinity and let them know where you are. And it's a critical element of flying that you keep track of where other aeroplanes in the air are. This instrument is called an EFIS, an electronic flight information system. It incorporates a whole range of functions. At the bottom, all of the engine parameters: exhaust gas temperature, cylinder head temperature, oil pressure, fuel levels, left wing and right wing, together with a calculated fuel level. Now, as I accelerate, the critical stuff to look at is, have we got airspeed over there? And have we got full revs over here? At 55, 56 miles an hour, I'll pull the stick back, we should be able to take off. Woohoo! And we're airborne. Careers are difficult things to plan all that well. They take strange twists and turns. But a couple of good decisions early on I think give you a much better chance of success. Obviously doing well academically helps you along. Doing something that you're enjoying doing or that you enjoy to do helps because you are generally more willing to work harder at it. And there's nothing to replace hard work. If you work hard, you're more likely to succeed and do well. Aviation has a whole range of career opportunities available in it. One of the nice little things about our business is that we manufacture almost all of the components here ourselves. So although we have to buy the engine, propeller and instrument from the outside, the instrument is actually made in South Africa, the engine in Austria and the propellers in America. Everything else in the aeroplane we do ourselves. We do all the composites, we do our own upholstery, we do the painting ourselves. We wanted to outsource here in Johannesburg some of the fabrication of the aluminium components, but we couldn't find the right guys to do it. So ultimately we bought the machinery and we do all of that ourselves.
The only living things capable of powered flight are insects, birds and bats. Abantu have built so many aircrafts to join these creatures in the sky. Kuna manje samen sobona all these different things guthi fly kanjani.
Anana le tseba hore di insects ha di sebedise mapheo a tsona hore di fofe jwalo ka dinonyane. They fly by making their exoskeletons quiver. By contracting their muscles, insects force their entire bodies to vibrate. Iblani di vibrations tsena ke tsona tse etsang hore di wings tsa bona di kgone ho di fofisa. The wing of a plane has an airfoil shape. Because of this shape, air flows faster over the top than the bottom, creating high pressure underneath the wing, which then pushes the plane up through the lower air pressure. An engine also provides thrust to move the plane forward. The airship little blimps that are lighter than air can fly, thanks to the science of buoyancy. They are typically filled with a gas like helium that is less dense than the surrounding atmosphere and gets these crafts up into the air. Haragutla re thuta ka legendary South African aviation expert re thuta hape le di aeroplane tsona ba di etsa jwang. Not only that, re tlo thuta hape le ka di engines tsa teng. So stay tuned, don't fly away. And now wena o batla ba a pilot. Be inspired by the story of our legend on today's episode. What are planes made of? Iblaning tsona ba di assembly ka tsela tse feng. Samale rona ha re tsamaya re lo ithuta. And we learn the difference between jet engines and rocket engines. Coming up right after this. TOMz. TOMz Moho SABC 1 Mzansi for sure, proudly brought to you by SABC Education.
And Buffet, we bring you the coolest science and technology yala Mzansi. Namhlanje we are buckling our seatbelts, flying into the sky, learning more about the amazing science of flying.
Kajoklena re batla ho ithuta hore di pilot tsona di fufisa jwang difofane. Iblan hapo kile wa ipotsa hore an airplane yona ba yentse jwang. We discover how they are assembled. Re tlo ithuta pele ka the history and the evolution ya di aeroplane. Iblan hape re tlo ithuta more about some cool flight simulating applications for the smartphones alone.
But first, let's check out what's coming up next.
Be inspired by the story of our South African legend for today. Re thute hore di aeroplane tsona ba di etsa jwang and how aviation engineers put a plane together, and learn about the difference between a rocket engine and a jet engine. Legend ya episode ya rona ka tsheko is a man lo ngore khale yena a batla go fofa from esentseneng le moshimane o monyane. Ka tsheko lena he's not only a licensed pilot, empaneng o owner his very own charter company. Nala di tseba di legend tsa lona tsa Mzansi. Well, let's go and find out.
Isn't it the first self-trained black guy? His name is Ernest Kekana, I think.
I don't know the first black South African pilot.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Megasakhula u-Ernest Kekana bekangazi any pilots, kodwa wafunda ngama-airplanes and would sometimes catch a lift to the airport to watch planes take off. Having spent his teenage years asebenza at a retail store to save up for private license training, u-Ernest waba SA's first self-trained black pilot at the age of 20. Namhlanje akasiyo i-pilot kuphela, kodwa the owner of charter company K5 Aviation with a fleet of 11 planes and 3 helicopters. Akaqashi nje 30 pilots and 200 staff members, kodwa i-company yakhe has a social development program in place for those who can't afford ukulandela amaphupho wabo of becoming pilots. What a legend!
Let's go if you want to comment and your shout outs, you can do so on both our Facebook and our Twitter pages.
So basifuna ukuthola kabanzi ukuthi ipeno iyenzwa kanjani nokuthi iyenzwa ngani and how all these parts fit together.
Okay, so this is really where the whole process starts. The first thing we do is we just doodle an aeroplane on a piece of paper, come up with a rough design, and we then draft the aircraft on a CAD program like this over here. So what William has got in front of us here is a wing, and every single component in the entire aircraft is fully drawn and defined over here.
Oh, I'm William Maseko. I'm a draftsman, like a design draftsman. So I work with parts, aircraft parts. No ne ki buti wing ne. And then le wing le ngisiphana ngalo kushuthi ama-part are different nje from le wing le ne. So each and every part lana si designile differently from ku wing. So njengale part leli i-rib le ne mangilivula so si design separate from kwamanye ama-part ne. Njengokuthi masiliyenza nje ngiyaliyenza nje njenge-part so ne. And then njengoba ngiliflatina so mase ngiqedile ukuliyenza seliflat so khona ama-outer mengiwanikeza wona ne-uthabo nonkosana. So mangiwanikeza le rib leli bona bazoliphuncha as you ubona nje ama-cutouts nankalana kule part leli ne ukuthi le part leli bazothi mabalikhatha bona bazolikhatha the way lingakhona accurate imishini yethu esenza ngayo ngale ne i-router ne-punch machine i-CNC machine. So mabalishaya nje bazolishaya the way lingakhona nje and then lizohamba ama-process are different lapho bazolibhenda khona.
Drawing the aircraft and creating the files is step number 1. This is step number 2, punching out a flat piece of aluminium, exactly the right shape. We take a computer USB drive from the computer that Nkosana was working on next door, and we plug it into that computer over there and run the program. And this punch, which you can hear going bam, 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 bam in the background, cuts out with a die and various shapes of cutter exactly the required shape. Let me take you and show you step number 3. So what Neo and Mkadisi over there are doing now is they are putting together all the components in a wing, just like the one we saw on the computer a while ago, into, this is the left wing of a Sling 4 that they're making right now. And they are delivered a kit with all of these components in it, and then they assemble it using rivets.
On a computer, I assemble the whole fuselage and then center fuselage. So I carry through this part floor. I carry through the more. Okay, now wing more. Okay, now wing. Then take the pedal. Hit the pedal. And then the copper and no. These two parts together. I want to tell you so. The copper that are going is say these two parts. Already the company society and then no the company just carry through. The one is already assembled. One of this part, what do not see diagram? What do not see the keep a pilot. As you can see, Mogri pedal, keep pedal because pedal just a bit zoom. It will see tiger is. It will see. So pedal in number the daily pedal is. The motor for the control sticks. Party. We're going to sticks, some of the control sticks, both sides. Okay, front wheel, then engine mounting. Then assemble move for the wall. Then afterwards, the engine on this engine mounting. We're going to go next department, go final assembly. So I'm going to assemble the and push to go spray shop, then from spray shop, you go final assembly and then we'll fire engine.
What's happening here is that we're in the final assembly division of the business. Everything comes together in this hangar, and we put the engine on the aeroplane, we then put the tail on the aeroplane, we then put the wings on the aeroplane, and the wiring, the hosing, all of the kind of technical stuff at the end. When the aeroplane comes out of this hangar, it's ready to fly.
I'm the one who's responsible for fitting the engine as it comes here, because when the fuselage comes in here, it won't be having an engine. So I open the engine box, remove the engine from there, and then I fit all these systems that you see, because when it comes, it's almost completely naked. It doesn't have all the oil system, fuel system, and ignition and everything. So I'm responsible for fitting everything, and I also fit the propeller, set the propellers, and do any adjustments that are required.
The engine provides a plane with the thrust it needs for it. 3 kinds of engines power most flying machines. The piston engines, jet engines, lead rocket engines. All 3 depend on the same basic principle to produce thrust. The engine mixes fuel with oxygen or another oxidizer in a combustion chamber. The mixture is ignited. The burning mixture then creates hot expanding gases. These gases either produce thrust directly, as in jet and rocket engines, or are used to push a piston or drive a turbine. Jet and rocket engines disability the same principle. They produce a thrust through an internal pressure difference and eject exhaust gases in an equal and opposite direction. Difference between them ke hore di-jet tsona di fumana oxygen ya tsona from the air in order to burn the fuel. Di-rocket tsona carry their own oxygen, which allows them to operate in space.
But this way, I will show you guys some cool simulating apps, but like that we fly with the pilots in a plane.
Re ithuta hape le ka the evolution of flying, and we get some cool career advice from our guests on today's show. All this and more after the break.
You tuned in to SABC 1 Mzansi for show, and this is your #1 edutainment show. It's TOMz, brought to you by the SABC Education. And then we are flying high as we learn about the science and technology of flights.
That is right. Kataklena rinkile a trip in an aeroplane. Iblan hape re ithutile hore tsona ba di etsa jwang le hore ba di assembler ka tsela tse feng. Re ithutile hape ka the history of flight, and we're also discovering hore these big jumbo jets tsona di khona jwang ho dula ko moyeng.
Coming up next.
Re ithuta ka the history and evolution of flight. Fly with us as we learn what pilots do. E be re bona hape le di-technology tse ba di sebedisang ka mogara aeroplane hore e kgone ho sebetsa.
If you guys want to chat with us, you can catch us on our social networks, Facebook and Twitter. Leave yourself a comment right there. But right now, let's turn back the clock and find out how the first humans dreamed about flying.
In the early days of mankind, abantu tried to imitate the flight yenyoni ngokuyenza amaphiko out of wood and feathers and attaching them to their bodies bazame ukundiza. Obviously, there were few successes. Ama-China popularized kites around 1000 BC, and abaningi attempted to fly into the sky kusebenziswa lama device. Leonardo da Vinci wayenza the first real studies of flight in the 1480s. The modern-day helicopter is based on his famous ornithopter. Ngo-1783, the Montgolfier brothers bayenza i-hot air balloon yokuqala. Futhi ngo-1891, u-Otto Lilienthal designed i-glider yokuqala that could fly a person. Sibonga ama-aerodynamic studies wakhe ukuthi ama-Wright brothers were able to invent a practical airplane yokuqala ngo-1905. The rest is history.
Okay, so here we are in the store. So an aeroplane is an extremely complex machine. We've got 13,000 rivets in our aeroplane, let alone all the parts. The guys in the store here then draw parts and pack them into a kit for each of the different sections of the aeroplane. And those kits go to one of two places. Either they go to a customer who is building an aeroplane himself in his home, or they go to our assembly division over here and they use that kit to put together one of the sections of the aeroplane, all of which are eventually put together in what we call final assembly.
What's up, everybody? It's time for our social sessions here on TOMz. This is where we chat to you via Facebook and Twitter. Namhlanje on Twitter, I have Grant saying how's it to all his mates, and Usteluti, he wants to be a pilot. Well, Grant, Tinalaya TOMz are rooting for you.
I've got Lebuhang on Facebook who says he's scared of flying. What if the lightning hits the plane? Well, actually, Lebuhang, there's no need to be worried about that because our pilots can fly around the storm or over it. And if the lightning hits the plane, then you'll be safe.
How come?
Well, our airplanes have built-in lightning protection system that protects them from lightning. Cool, ne?
Awesome. I've got Utemba on Twitter, and why do planes leave those long white trails in the sky? Well, Temba, those trails are called vapor trails. Yabona, the fuel of a plane is a hydrocarbon which produces two compounds, and those compounds are carbon dioxide, namanzi, and those engines burn really hot. So what happens to water when it boils?
Well, it turns into gas, and when the gas escapes from the exhaust pipe and meets up with cold air in the high latitude, it condenses to form little tiny droplets again. So airplanes wanna ayenza ama little clouds foot.
On today's show to give us some tips and advice.
To students out there who want to be aircraft mechanics, like especially specializing in engines, what you need to do, you need to have mathematics, you need to have science, right, and English. And then after that, you have to enroll in an apprenticeship board where you'll be taught how to basic maintenance of aircraft, where you get a certificate, and then after that you then specialize in you'll be specializing in specific engines for a diploma course, where you'll be qualified, where you'll be given certificates that are relevant for what you've been trained for.
My advice to young school kids trying to get into aviation is do as well academically as you can. Make sure you do well at languages. Make sure you do well at the sciences. Out of school, university or apprentice work. If you want to get into the technical side, study of air traffic control is very specific. Then there is all the technical work around the development and manufacturing of aeroplanes, what they call the aerospace industry. And you can get into that either through studying engineering at university, or you can get into that through apprentice work in an established aviation business. In South Africa, Denel is the big apprentice business that offers opportunities in aviation. There is a range of flight planning, air traffic controllers, whole range of opportunities available. You know, air traffic control is critically important. You've got aeroplanes with up to 400 or 500 people flying around, being kept separate all the time.
Flight simulator apps are a great way to have fun. Nokuthi ufunde ukuthi kunjani ukundiza ibhanoyi. X-Plane for iPhone or iPad is a great app. Ungakhetha ukundiza ama-gliders, airliners, light planes, helicopters, and even fighter jets. The app includes terrain details, ama-3D buildings, and even traffic control charter. AppSim Space Shuttle ikthatha ikbeka space to control a space shuttle. The app lets you factor in system failures, added turbulence as you prepare for your final approach of a landing, and it features a full 3D cockpit. Sky Racer 2 is a great app for your phone or tablet ekuvumela undiza multiple planes through hoops and perform stunts. Noma ungandiza phezu kwey'ntaba and landscapes while you factor in weather conditions, engine characteristics nama aerodynamics. Having fun while landing is a great way to learn.
For more information on today's show, Nasba Theatre, you can go on our website at www.tomz.co.za and follow the links. But right now, before we sign off, let's take a quick recap on today's episode. Let's go.
We pilots prepare the airplanes for takeoff. We looked at the different flying things from animals to airplanes. We celebrated our legend for today, pilot and charter company owner, Ernest Kekana. We got to see how an airplane is assembled, related to the difference between a jet engine and a rocket engine. The evolution of flight. We showed you guys some cool flight simulation applications. We socialized with you TOMz fans out there, and we got some cool career advice from the guest. So for more information, why don't you visit us on www.tomz.co.za. And remember to check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. And that's it from us, guys. It's time for us to fly out of here. Next time, we tweet out, discover all these amazing and cool science and technology from South Africa.
Only here on your number one channel, SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
Next time on TOMz, the magic of glass. Remember the different glass products that are made in Mzansi. Nature produces glass and see how glass blowing works. Tune in to TOMz every Monday and Tuesday at 4 o'clock, only here at SABC 1 Mzansi for sure.